Please take a seat. Bhumi, when is your interview? Have you got the date?
I have not received the dates yet.
Okay. Now tell us something about yourself.
Sir, I'm Bhumi Shrivastava. I come from Bhopal, Madhya Pradesh. I have finished my graduation and post-graduation in zoology from Banaras Hindu University. And currently, I'm also working remotely for a private firm as a scientific editor. And I like watching movies. I'm a trained Kathak dancer, and after that, I have practiced on my own.
How many attempts have you given so far?
So this is my third attempt and first interview.
Okay. Okay, so let us start with some women-centric questions. Give me 3 highlights of the Prevention of Domestic Violence Act.
Right. So first is that it is applicable to married as well as non-married couples who are in live-in relationships. Secondly, it is applicable to not only the male perpetrators but also the females of the family. And thirdly, it includes not only physical violence but also sexual, emotional, and financial forms of violence.
Good. When was it passed?
See, I can't recall the exact year.
Are there any improvements which you would like to suggest? How has it worked out in practice?
Sir, in practice, the conviction rates and even the reporting of cases is very less, and it is because the awareness of the law, first of all, is low, and secondly, the trust in the prosecution of matter among women is low. So a lot of improvement, especially in terms of awareness as well as empowering the women to come out and raise their voices outside the family confines is important.
So what would you suggest? If suppose you have to give some suggestions to the state governments or to the center, what would you suggest?
Sir, I would suggest that the governments should target the homemakers, given that their financial capabilities are low, which is why they find it convenient to not report such crimes. So, targeted attention to non-working women is important. Secondly, sir, if the conviction rates are increased by proper following of legal procedure, then the trust in the law and the system would increase. So that would encourage women to come out and speak about it.
You play chess also?
Yes, sir. I have played chess in university.
Okay. How many grandmasters do we have in chess?
So recently we have added a 79th grandmaster, so 79 in total from India.
Are you sure? Who's the latest?
Sir, I can't recall the name.
And which lady recently defended her title?
So from India?
Yes, in India, the national championship.
Sir,
she became the youngest to defend a title.
Yes, sir.
Who was it?
Sir, I have read it, but I can't recall the name.
Okay, no problems. Now, tell us, you're fond of watching biographical movies.
Yes, sir.
As many as 5 actors have played Gandhiji on the screen. Let's see how many you can name, and name the movies also.
Sir, first is Gandhi.
Who played Gandhiji there?
Sir, I can't recall his name. He's a known actor. He received Oscar also for Best Actor.
How many Oscars did the movie Gandhi get?
Sir, I'm not aware. Sir.
Okay. Can you name any of the others who played Gandhiji?
No, sir, I don't recall.
Okay, no problem. Tell us about a biographical movie which has been made on the US president.
Sir, Air Force One. No, it's not biographical. Sir, Lincoln.
Lincoln.
Yes.
That's right. Okay. Now, what is POCSO? What is the full form and what are some of its highlights, some of its main features?
Yes, sir. Sir, it's a act for protection of children from sexual offences. And the main highlights is that the definition of children is anybody below 18 years of age, and it is applicable both on male and female children. And some of the good features of the act are that any person talking to the victim should be in civil uniform, even if they are police officers, so that the child feels comfortable. And that's all I know.
It also talks about aggravated offenses. Are you aware of those?
No, sir.
No, no problem. Okay. You are a student of zoology.
Yes, sir.
There's a famous doctor who has won awards for his books on cancer and the gene.
Yes,
What
sir.
is his name?
Sir, Dr. Siddharth.
Is that all, Dr. Siddharth? What is his full name?
Yes, sir, he is written. No, sir, I don't remember the name.
Okay. Uh, Tell me about applications of artificial intelligence in administration. Can you think of any?
Sir, artificial intelligence can be used to develop localized systems for transportation or for traffic management. So that is one application, because a lot of data on how many vehicles are passing, what is their speed, what is the pedestrian traffic, all of this can be fed into AI systems, and that can develop a smart traffic monitoring system.
Okay. Anything else?
So any kind of data collection, even from Manrega, all of these things can be fed into systems and can for increasing the efficiency of even schemes that are for benefit of the marginalized sections.
Okay. Your name reminds me of a movie and of a digital intervention. Now, can you elaborate on either the movie or the digital intervention?
Sir, the digital intervention could be there's a scheme in
Which state?
yes, in Karnataka. It is for the maintenance of land record, and it's a part of mobile governance by the government so that every stakeholder has information regarding the land records of their area. So that is Bhumi. And a movie, sir, I can't recall a movie.
I asked you to name one, so
Okay,
that's good enough. Thank
thank
you.
you. Thank you, sir.
So, Bhumi, you've heard of UN Women?
Yes, ma'am.
What does it do essentially, and what is its mandate, sort of?
Ma'am, it's an intergovernment. It's the part of the UN organization, and it focuses on policies related to women. They analyze the policies, they suggest interventions, and also some research purposes also fulfilled through this organization.
And you think in India their work is or will be able to make some impact, because we have so much of disparity
Yes, ma'am.
in women's status, including, as you mentioned, the various acts which have come in which for their protection.
Yes, ma'am.
So, will their work and analysis help in any way to mitigate the situation?
Ma'am,
alleviate the
definitely an
situation?
international organization with the standing of UN Women can impact the policy making and even implementation in India, because we observe a lot of limitations in data collection and response to women issues. So an organization with that credibility can, if its roots are increased, if its reach is increased in India, then definitely it can help.
It can help out.
Yes,
help
ma'am.
in India. We hope so.
Yes, ma'am.
And something about our neighborhood. What do you think India's current policy vis-a-vis its neighbors, all its neighbors, how effective is it, and what is it all about? What is our neighborhood first policy about?
Yes, ma'am. Ma'am, the neighborhood first policy talks about how in the region India should emerge as a net security provider, as well as have a relationship of mutual respect and cooperation with the neighbors. And it is evident in various deals that we have with Nepal, with Bhutan about hydroelectricity. With Bangladesh, we have a lot of transportation projects underway. With Sri Lanka also, in these turbulent times, India has been reaching out to help. In terms of Pakistan and China, they have their individual threats and benefits that we have. Pakistan is a security threat, as India's official policy is that they tend to sponsor terrorism in India. So there we have a crucial relationship as to we have to cooperate with them given they are neighbors, but we also have to maintain our defense systems in their regard. And with China, it's a evolving dynamic relationship where there are competitors in the not only in the region but also globally, and also their expansionist tendencies are a threat to India at the moment. So there we have caution as well as cooperation with China.
So why is China constantly, at India along the border in the last few years, as we've been seeing?
Ma'am, China sees India as a threat to its regional influence. Firstly, that. Secondly, even in economic terms, China is observing that a lot of companies, especially the US companies, are willing to diversify their manufacturing hubs. So, economic threat from India is also present. And thirdly, ma'am, it is expanding all over, not just in terms of India, but also in South China Sea, and its expansionist and aggressive tendencies are on a rise. So India is also a part of that policy that China is following.
So what should India do? Is it following the right policy at the moment, its foreign policy in dealing with China, or you think it could do better?
Ma'am, currently there are statements by the government that we are in talks with China. There are forums that are established, so that I believe is the best way to diplomatically solve these problems. But at the same time, India should also focus on domestic capability, especially economically, so that China does not see us as a small regional power, and we are able to stand on our feet and confront it whenever needed. So going forward, India must equally focus on diplomacy with China, as well as enhancing its own capabilities militarily and economically.
Uh, foreign companies, you said, are looking at India, but on the ease of business index, we are quite low. And most companies are fine. I mean, some have managed to come in and set up, but many new companies who want to come into India are hesitant still. And we want to also make Atmanirbhar Bharat, we want to make in India for the world, etc. We've all these policies have been announced. So do you think, given the current scenario, unless we change our position and our policies, are we in a position to achieve it, you think? What is your assessment?
Ma'am, in recent times, there have been some improvements, like in the labor laws, and even in ease of doing business in the last 7-8 years, we have progressed a lot. So, but China already has a very robust infrastructure to support these manufacturing units. So, to compete with that, these steps of labor laws and infrastructure development through national infrastructure pipeline and special economic zones, etc., are we are moving towards that direction. But a lot is to be done in terms of the perception of India as and its capabilities to provide these manufacturing hubs, and parallelly skill development of the people who can provide a good labor force to these companies is important.
And also, what suggestions would be, what could be done to make things better and quicker? The process of approvals takes so long. So what would be a better way of doing that?
Ma'am, contract enforcement was a major problem in our ease of doing ranking. So that speeding up the judicial processes and bringing in arbitration and mediation to improve these contract enforcement and decreasing legal liabilities on the company. So these could be.
And also one window clearance, because clearance
Yes,
takes so long, so that you quickly get clearances and give it.
Yes, ma'am.
Which is a great thing which is a very very quick process, I understand, in China.
Yes.
So in comparison, that's where everybody went there in the first place. They made it so easy for them. Yes. Afterwards, they made it difficult for them to exit, but they created such dependency. But bringing them in was very, very quick.
Yes, ma'am.
So that is one aspect which also needs to be sort of looked at.
Yes.
To have one window clearance, and of course, as you said, enforcement of the contracts, etc., and make it simpler for them to do business, because we are looking at even diversifying into or helping the world diversify its supply chains away from China. Thank you.
Bhumi, you are from BHU.
Yes, sir.
Institute of Science, Banaras Hindu University. What does it mean, Institute of Science? It used to be Faculty of Science?
Yes, sir. So it was upgraded as an institute. The title is now changed because of many infrastructural changes that the faculty did. It's the same institution, only the title has been changed from Faculty of Science to Institute of Science.
What extra it gets by declaring itself an Institute of Science?
So there are only 4 or 5 institutes in the university. So the grant, etc., is increased. And
Institute of Agriculture, Institute
yes,
of Science.
Yes, sir.
And
Institute of Medical Sciences.
Medical Sciences.
Yes, sir. And the Institute of Technology is now Indian Institute of Technology. It's upgraded to IIT. Yes, sir. It's the same.
All right, all right. You have done BSc Honors Zoology.
Yes, sir.
Only one subject. It used to be BZC, Botany, Zoology, Chemistry.
So it was BZC, but the honors means that in the third year we have only studied zoology, whatever my honors subject was. The first 2 years we study BZC,
So
and
now it is 3 years course.
so in my school,
Now it is 3 years course, BSc Honors.
yes, it is 3 years course.
Okay, okay, okay. So what extra you study in third year?
So we studied zoology in a little more depth
Mm-hmm.
as compared to botany and chemistry.
बताओ ना कुछ extra.
Sir,
specific.
so some subjects of molecular biology, biochemistry, genetics, development biology, these were introduced in the third.
और ये आपने लिखा है.
Yes, sir.
I am totally confused. You have done MSc with biochemistry, genetics, cell biology, ecology, embryology, neurobiology.
So these are the subjects that were there in my MSc zoology course.
MSc
Zoology.
Zoology.
Yes, sir.
Okay, MSc Zoology में biochemistry पढ़ाते हैं.
Yes, sir. So different
But
subjects
there
in
is a
every
department of biochemistry separate.
no, sir. Department of biochemistry is not there in BHU. Department of biotechnology is there.
Biotechnology.
Yes, sir.
So they have changed. Biochemistry has become biotechnology.
No, sir. Biotechnology is a separate department. Biochemistry is
Where is this department situated?
sir in the university itself.
बताओ ना यूनिवर्सिटी मुझे पता
Sir,
है.
in
I know
front
this.
of Department of Zoology is Department of Biotechnology.
That is Department of Chemistry. Opposite
Same,
Department of
same.
Zoology.
Yes, sir.
Across the road.
The Department of Zoology has School of Biochemistry, School of Neurobiology, but Department of Biotechnology is a different department in the Institute of Science itself.
Okay, different. You spent when up to 2017, 2019.
So in MSc it was 2017 to 19, BSc was 2017.
Okay. वो गोपूतनाथ का कैंटीन है कि हट गया?
Sir, कौन सा कैंटीन?
गोपूतनाथ का कैंटीन.
Sir, in chemistry department.
सब बच्चे तो वहीं जाते हैं समोसा खाना.
Sir, chemistry में there's a canteen, but I'm not sure if you're talking about the same canteen.
केमिस्ट्री में है?
Yes, sir, chemistry में. जी.
You used to go there to
Yes,
have
sir.
tea and samosa?
Yes, sir, I've been there.
And that is the hanging,
Yes,
the
sir.
hangout place.
Yes, sir.
Okay. Now tell me something about genetics
Yes, sir.
and embryology.
Yes, sir. So,
So we have, ordinarily we know identical twins. Twins, तो mind में आता है identical twins. But on rare occasions, twins are born, but they are not identical. So how is it?
yes, sir. So twins are of two types. So identical twins are those where the embryo is first formed by fertilization between sperm and egg.
All right,
And
all right.
that
Embryo
embryo-
is formed.
Yes, sir. That embryo is split into two, specifically at the morula stage when all cells are identical. So if all cells are identical till the morula, the 8-cell stage. So if before that the embryo splits, then the two embryo develop independently and they develop as identical twins because their genetic makeup is exactly the same, given that they have come from the same single cell zygote. But in non-identical twins, it is possible that the ova itself splits into two. So
Ova splits into two.
or there could be there could be two mature ova in the
Okay.
fertilization
Okay.
tube. So they are then fertilized with two different sperms. So,
All right. Okay. What is this Cactus Communications?
yes, sir. So it's a private consulting company in Mumbai. So my job there is that I'm a scientific editor. So what this company does is that they collaborate with different academicians and research universities and even pharma companies, and they help them publish their research in reputed journals like Nature and Science.
And Nature?
Nature and Science, these are the names of journals that are reputed in the scientific world.
But Nature is a high-end this thing, journal?
Yes, Nature is very credible.
You did not pursue this, your biotechnology, etc. beyond like for PhD or something. You did not enroll yourself.
I did not enroll myself. I appeared for the exams and I got offers, but I did not continue with that path.
Okay. What is this? Exploring contemporary American music.
Yes, sir.
Exploring.
Yes, sir. So exploring, I have written because we have a group of friends who we come together and we analyze the lyrics of songs, the composition, and it goes beyond just listening and discussing it with my peers. So that is one hobby that I have.
Exploring with whom? Your peer group?
Yes, sir. My friends. Yes.
You have like-minded friends?
Yes, sir.
Okay. They all are from BHU background?
No, sir. They are different.
How are the academic standards of BHU now?
So in science, Institute of Science, it is, I think, very good. The research published and the kind of people that are working for from our professors, they are publishing very credible research. But in other faculties, I'm not sure of how.
Who is director of Institute of Science?
So, currently, Professor Manju Agarwal is the director.
Manju Agarwal.
Madhulika Agarwal, sir.
Madhulika
Dr. Madhulika
Agarwal. And who was before her?
So before her, I don't remember.
And who was when you were studying?
Sir, Professor J.K. Roy was. Professor J.K. Roy, Jagat Kumar Roy, from our department only, Department of Zoology.
All right. So I move away from your desk. Okay?
Yes, sir.
Fine. Now tell me about the issue of insurgency in Northeast. Problem of insurgency in Northeast.
So insurgency is an internal security threat, and it is prominent in the Northeast because of the cross-border support that the groups have. And
Cross-border support?
Yes, sir.
From which countries?
Sir, from Myanmar mainly, and because of their ethnic relations with beyond borders. So some insurgent groups, their demands vary from a separate state to a separate country. And these usually are tribal groups.
There are two things.
Yes.
Some are demanding separate states, some other are demanding
a
separate
entity.
countries.
Yes.
So some are demanding solution within the Indian Constitution.
Yes.
Separate state.
Yes.
So it is within the Indian Constitution.
Yes.
And some other are going beyond Indian Constitution. They are asking for sovereignty.
Yes.
Yes.
Sir.
So about the second category, tell me in which state this problem is.
So this separate Naga entity, the Nagalim, the Greater Nagalim, the support it enjoys is from Nagaland, from Manipur, and
Greater Nagaland.
Greater Nagalim.
So they are asking for a Greater Nagaland within India, or they want it as a sovereign, independent country?
Sir, I think there are different sects in the Naga community only. So so from what limited knowledge I have, I think there are some sects that demand a different country, while some demand statehood.
Okay, tell me states where this problem of insurgency has been successfully or almost successfully handled.
Sir, in Assam,
in Northeast.
Sir, in Assam, the insurgency is lower compared to other states.
Now you should start with Mizoram.
Sir, I'm not aware of the
That was the first state where issue of insurgency was successfully handled with Laldenga Award. Then comes Tripura.
Yes, sir.
Then we can say Meghalaya. It is almost settled by and large now.
Yes, sir.
Then you can come to Assam. It is still not fully settled.
Yes, sir.
So this is area you study.
Yes, sir.
Northeast.
Yes.
So now we come we move from internal security to external issue.
Yes.
We have a border with Tibet, China, and the line is McMahon line. This is from Bhutan to the eastern end of Indian territory. What problem we have with this line?
Sir, in the middle sectors,
No, don't go to the middle sector. This is eastern.
Yes, sir. Sir, from Indian side, the McMahon line is accepted as the international boundary because the whole of Arunachal Pradesh.
Okay, it is the international border.
Yes.
For us. And what the problem with China? What
sir,
problem China has with this line?
Sir, China does not accept this boundary because they say that it was agreed upon by the Tibetans and not by the Chinese. So some of the area of
It was
Arunachal Pradesh.
agreed upon by the Tibetan.
Sir, I may be confusing it, but from what I
नहीं तुम ठीक कह रही हो, थोड़ा इसको और improve करो.
yes sir. Sir, what the Chinese say is that because the Chinese side was represented by Tibetans, who Chinese does not recognize as an independent representative of that territory, which is why they don't agree to this line, and they claim some parts of Arunachal Pradesh to be a part of Chinese territory.
Okay. I will come to it later.
Yes.
Now coming to say Central India,
Yes, sir.
Madhya Pradesh.
Yes, sir.
There were some few major events, major happenings which were in the focus, national attention. Tell me a few.
So recently the Pravasi Bharati Divas was
Okay.
held in Indore, and it was parallel to the Investors Summit that the MP
Okay. Next.
So the Mahakal Lok was inaugurated by the Prime Minister in Ujjain.
Tell me something about Mandu.
Yes, sir. Sir, Mandu is a historical town near Indore. So it was ruled by. So there are many historical architectural monuments like the Mahal of Rani Rupmati. There is so the Mandu Mahal is famous. I don't recall who built it, but it was built in the medieval times, and the architecture is very fascinating.
Okay, all right.
Thank you, sir.
Bhumi,
Yes, sir.
Kathak dancing.
Yes, sir.
So, can you relate Kathak dancing with administration?
So Kathak is a combination of a lot of things, from expression to footwork, that is tatkar, to hastaks, and they come together to give a very visually pleasing treat to the audience. So I think in administration also there are a lot of components that have to come together to deliver a product, and these maybe and even the three organs of government, the legislative, the executive, and the judiciary, they are also like the components of a one performance that then gives the final product.
Okay, relate. So, can you name some famous Kathak dancers of India?
Yes, sir. Sir, from Lucknow Gharana, there are Birju Maharaj, Channu Maharaj. From Jaipur Gharana, there's Puru Dadich, Dr. Pallavi Kishan. And Manju Devi, Shambhavi Shukla from Madhya Pradesh. These are some.
Okay, so if you compare Kathak dancing with, let's say, the South Indian schools, right? So we have the Bharatnatyam or the Kuchipudi or the Mohiniyattam or the Kathakali. So how would you contrast it?
Sir, Kathak, since it developed in the northern India, it is said to be the only classical form that is influenced by the Persian or the Islamic elements, because we see the development of Lucknow Gharana especially was because of the Nawab of Awadh. So the Persian elements of the veil, that is the a part of the costume, and some mannerisms in Kathak are influenced by the Persian culture, while the southern dances like the Bharatnatyam and Kuchipudi etc. have retained their original ancient form. So I think the evolution is more in Kathak than the southern forms, but some mudras and the basic element of Kathak that was derived from a worship of God, they are common among all the classical dances in India.
Okay, right. You play chess. Favorite opening?
So London system.
Okay, like the London system. And why is that? It's popular these days.
Yes, sir. Sir, one reason is because it's popular. So a lot of lines can be studied. A lot of top players play this system. So the opening is widely studied. So which is why it gives an advantage to the player who's playing.
Explain it in simple terms. Like ma'am doesn't play chess. How would you explain it to her? What's the London system?
So London system from... So I'll confuse the notations and I may end up saying...
Forget the notation. Start with the king pawn, the queen pawn.
Yes,
and
sir.
Explain like that. Keep it simple.
So I'm blanking out.
Your mother doesn't play chess?
No, sir.
Let's say you want to explain it to her. Explain.
Sir, I can't recall the opening. It's a 4 or 5 move.
Okay, right. You got the Khurana scholarship.
Yes.
Who is he?
So Dr. Hargobind Khurana was an Indian American scientist. Had the American citizenship but was Indian, and he is credited with the study in genetic code. And he was the one who identified that there are stop codons in a mRNA chain, where when they come into the picture, that the synthesis of protein stops at that very codon. And he got the Nobel Prize for this same finding also.
Okay, right. Why did you pursue your PhD? Why are you coming towards administration?
So I started my studies because I was genuinely interested in biological sciences, and during my masters, I always used to look for projects that had a wider implication in common people's life. So it was in fact in my university itself that professor suggested that if this is your intent, then probably administration is a better better career for you. So after my masters, I decided to pursue this.
Your mother is a professor as well. What does she teach?
No, sir, she's a homemaker.
She's a homemaker.
Yes, sir.
Who's a professor? Something
So
written.
my father
Your
retired. Yes.
Okay, so what did he teach?
So he's a journalist. So
Okay.
after he retired from his publication job, he took up this professorship. So he teaches journalism.
Oh, he
too.
teaches journalism.
Yes.
Oh, wonderful. Right. Pulkit?
Bhumi.
Yes, sir.
So BSc Zoology and MSc
In zoology.
in Zoology.
Yes, sir.
So maybe 10 years ago, 15 years ago, it was said that the next 10 years will be the decade of biotechnology.
Yes, sir.
That there will come a time where it will be as popular, as mainstream, or will provide as many jobs as computer science or information technology does.
Yes, sir.
Has it happened, and why not?
So the first part, that it will be a mainstream subject, I think is true now, given that even especially after the pandemic, where all the vaccine development has played a significant role in crusading us from the pandemic. So that is the concept of biotechnologies in zoology has helped in vaccine development, and it is now biotechnology is a very it has a lot of prospects for the future. But for the job creation, there are definitely limitations, because it requires a lot of skill development and skilling of people to work at the industrial level from biotechnology. So for that, more interest in the students for these basic sciences is needed, because now a lot of focus on technical streams is there. So if students are encouraged and fellowships of PhD etc. are increased, then interest would be higher in these fields.
Wherein lies the problem? For example, let's say the students are quite enthusiastic. There are about, say, 100,000 students graduating with a degree in biotechnology every year. What are the options available to them?
Yes, sir. So first is entrepreneurship, wherein they can set up their own labs for commercial utilization of their knowledge, and even these vaccine developers are entrepreneurs in a way. And secondly, sir, academics is an option where one can pursue their PhD and then go for teaching. And thirdly, a lot of new fields like genetic counseling, wherein even hospitals these days have a process like stem cell conservation and counseling of prospective parents in terms of the possible diseases that their children may have. So all these things are options as career.
What is India's largest privately valued company?
I'm not sure.
So we heard a lot about RT-PCR tests recently when the COVID was going on. What is the full form of RT-PCR, and how is the test conducted?
So RT-PCR stands for reverse transcriptase polymerase chain reaction. So the PCR part is an amplification of a genetic product, and reverse transcription means the conversion of mRNA into DNA. So in this test, what is done is when the sample is collected, the primary objective is to test the presence of viral genetic material in that sample. So that sample is then processed for purification, and then the reverse transcriptase enzyme is used so that whatever mRNA is present in the sample of the virus, if any, it is amplified, which means the multiplication of the genetic material takes place. And then the PCR is a machine wherein the genetic product is amplified by using replicating the natural DNA replication. So nucleotides and DNA polymerase enzyme is fed into the machine, and that then performs the process of DNA multiplication. So now we have the DNA of the virus, if any, and it is multiplied, which means amplified. So then this amplified sample is then ran for gel electrophoresis, which is a process to detect whether our target gene is present in the sample or not. And so further processes like northern blotting, southern blotting are done to know the presence of viral DNA in the collected sample. So if the viral DNA is found in the sample, it means the person is infected with COVID.
So you said reverse transcriptase enzyme is used.
Yes, sir.
So the process is of reverse transcription.
Yes, sir.
What is transcription?
Yes, sir. So transcription is the process of forming RNA, that is ribonucleic acid, from DNA. So that is transcription. This is the natural process that occurs in every cell of every organism. But reverse transcription is a process of conversion of RNA into DNA. This is a special process which is because this enzyme is rare and it is found in some viruses and some other bacteria, archaebacteria. So this process is special because this enzyme is very rare to find in nature.
Okay. What is the structure of DNA?
Yes, sir. So DNA is a double helical structure, and there are two chains of polynucleotides. So nucleotide is the basic monomeric unit of DNA, and the DNA stands itself for deoxypolynucleic acid. So the poly part is that it's a polymer of many nucleotides. Nucleotides are four basically: adenine, guanine, cytosine, thymine. So these are arranged in any sequence depending on the genetic code of the person. So two such strands are in a reverse direction from so it's called 5' to 3', and the other has to be 3' to 5', and they spontaneously come together and join by hydrogen bonds. So this double helical structure is then called DNA.
How is this different from RNA, structure of RNA?
Sir, RNA stands for ribonucleic acid. So the main difference is that two differences are there. First is that in DNA there is deoxyribonucleic acid. So one oxy group is less in DNA than RNA. And second is in RNA, the thymine in DNA is replaced by uracil.
Okay. What is Mendel's law of genetics?
So Mendel is credited for 3 laws of genetics, and based on his experiments on the pea plant. So the first law is the law of dominance, wherein he said that when there are two alleles for a particular gene, and one among them is dominant and one may be recessive, and they can occur in 3 combination in a diploid organism. So he said that if the dominant allele is present, then in phenotypically the physiology will be such that only the dominant will be represented in the phenotype. So he said that one allele can be recessive and one can be dominant. Second was law of segregation, where he said when the gametes are formed, then the 2 alleles of a gene are segregated, and one gamete may have one allele and other gamete may have other allele, irrespective of everything else, because gamete is a haploid entity, and the organism reproducing sexually is usually a diploid. So the second is segregation. Third is law of independent assortment, where he said that if 2 genes exist on the same chromosome, then one gene the 2 alleles of one gene will be assorted independently of the other gene. So if a plant is tall and round, then their segregation during gamete formation could be in any order. The tall round may go one way, the tall and the other recessive may go, the short and other recessive may go other way. But there are challenges to these laws, and linkage is one of the limitations of his third law.
Last question. What is recombinant DNA technology and what are some of its applications?
So recombination means to combine the genetic material of 2 different, can be species, can be cells. So recombinant DNA technology is the one that uses these recombinants, means the mixed DNA, for various purposes. For example, if we have to even make the vaccine, then one example is the vaccine of the application. So in recombinant DNA, whatever desired traits are found in two different organisms can be combined. So if I want to make an organism that is tall and has round seeds, but I cannot make these through conventional methods of mating them, then I can make a DNA fragment by combining the genes of these two traits, the height and the roundness, and then they can come
Do we
together.
need a vector?
Yes, sir. We need a vector in plasmids and yeast artificial chromosome. These are common vectors that are used. So what vector does is the name suggests that it can, if I make a viral vector with a recombinant DNA, I can infect an organism with that viral vector to deliver that recombinant DNA into that organism.
Good. Thank you.
तुम लोग तो एकदम ही-
So, Bhumi, that brings us to an end of your interview, and I feel you did pretty well, especially on on your zoology parts. You were very confident and very articulate. But on the hobbies part, definitely you need to work on that. Whether it was chess or movies, if you don't know the name of Ben Kingsley,
Yes, sir.
it will reflect very poorly on you.
Yes, sir.
Okay. So chess and movies, you really have to Divya Deshpande, you should have known. Then child and women centric laws and schemes, you will definitely be asked about them. So when I asked you about domestic violence protection against that act, you should have talked also about protection officers and the fact that on the ground protection officers are either absent or it's given as an additional charge.
Yes, sir.
So that would have shown that you are really aware of what's happening on the ground. So these are the little touches which you need to put in your answers to make them more factual and more focused, and you'll get extra marks for that, right? And pay close attention to the question. I asked you about Bhumi, just one of those two, and you began apologizing for not knowing about the movie. So you're unnecessarily dragging yourself down. Pay attention to the question and nail your answer to the question.
Yes, sir.
You'll do well. Best of luck.
Overall, you were good, Bhumi, but little brushing up of facts and what are the exact issues, especially current issues, we'll have to see. And also, what are the various schemes? That is not what I asked you, but I'm just saying the various women-centric schemes and so, in India which are there and which are being or they're trying to implement, including Beti Bachao, Beti Padhao, and toilets and Swachh Bharat and all that. So all those issues are quite relevant. So maybe you should also look up all those schemes as part of women-centric questions. But overall, all good. But you need a little brushing up and focused answers. You're going a little beyond sometimes, but otherwise all very good.
Thank you.
All the best.
Thank you.
Bhumi,
Yes, sir.
by and large, everything is going right for you. You have right dress sense, properly dressed you are, nice. You will not be uncomfortable when you go for the interview. Expressions on your face are okay, just right. You are communicating well. Questions you are answering in a informed manner. Just a few areas where you need to be more aware and be more careful. Like this McMahon line. McMahon line issue. So you were sort of groping in the dark.
Yes,
What
sir.
had happened?
Sir, I could not recall facts.
You could not recall.
Yes.
Okay, I will tell you in brief. British India was apprehensive of expansionist Russia. So British India was in habit of involving China in every dealing with the Tibet. They wanted British China to be a stakeholder so that they can also be a resistance to expansionist intent of Russia. So this is the big picture. In this big picture, McMahon, he convened meeting to decide this external border. He invited Tibetans, he also invited Chinese. All right. In the draft, all three had signed the draft.
So,
Hmm? Are you following?
Yes, I'm listening.
All three signed the document,
Yes.
draft document.
Mm.
But when it came to the final, China backed out. So that was signed by India and Tibetan authorities. Indian authorities, British Indian authorities, and the Tibetan authorities. All right. But at that time, Tibet was not part of China. China was only maintaining a presence in Lhasa. That was also overthrown by Tibetan authorities after 2011 revolution. So technically, there was nothing wrong with India entering an agreement with Tibet. All right. But taking this as a plea, we were invited, we were also a stakeholder, we had signed draft, but because of these issues, we did not sign the final agreement, hence we don't recognize it. This is the crux. By the way, you don't need to know this much. You don't need to know this much. Ordinarily, no one would know this much. Only experts will know, and you are not an expert of the subject. So what you should do, when question becomes too deep, which is going beyond your comprehension of the issue, then don't venture. Just on the basis of tidbits you might have picked from here or there. But that is dangerous. All right?
Yes, sir.
Then you exit in a polite manner. On internal security issues, I am very happy that you used the right term when I talked of insurgency. Said it is one of the internal security issues. But you need to know better. The internal issue is internal security is a very important dimension. Very important. So the major issues you need to know by heart. You should improve your knowledge on these issues. All right. Otherwise, to my opinion, everything is going good for you. If you cover these gap areas, you can see your name in the final list. Okay?
Yes, sir.
Bhumi, it's okay. Take it. Don't worry. हो जाएगा.
Very, very strong on biotechnology. If there are technical questions asked, try to express them in a more common man language. That's the only thing. Otherwise, it's a very strong suit. RT-PCR, again, like I wanted to know whether you know the theory bit, because literally everybody knows what RT-PCR is of whatever they got to go through the test, but you have to know the background also. And you knew it in and out. Like right from the beginning of using the enzyme to finishing it with northern blotting and southern blotting, everything. So that was really, really good. Other than that, as sir has already pointed out, just cover up on your other hobbies in the DAF. There are just 3 or 4 things, so that's not a lot, but be very thorough on it, because your academic and your work experience is pretty solid. So these are just those 2 or 3 areas and can be easily done.
Sir, my answer on Kathak and administration
That's
didn't
fine.
make sense.
Don't worry about that. It is, see, what we're checking is presence of mind and your ability to relate things. That it satisfied that.
Yeah,
So,
that's good.
so it was very nice, right? Only the question, like, why not a PhD from abroad or from India in biotechnology or zoology? That is the only question which can maybe defined, I think, right? Except that, I don't think so any difference. London system bola to
Yes, sir.
फंसे you. Second,
Some
right?
blank हो गई.
That's okay, right? That's because sometimes what happens is they just want you to see you whether you can actually explain things in a very simplistic manner as well, right? Because at the end of the day, there are other people in the panel, right? And we want you to be appreciated by the rest of the panel as well, not just a technical expert. Okay? That's why that was, the question was asked.
Any other questions you have from us?
No, sir. I think I have to read on current affairs and all the basics of the country.
A lot of questions will come up from your hobbies and your DAF.
DAF,
So
yes,
that has
sir.
to be
That has to be
absolutely, you have to be on
airtight.
top of your game there.
Yes. Sir.
Best of luck.
Yes. Thank you. Thank
Best
you,
of
ma'am.
luck. Best of luck.